FORA.tv. The world is thinking.
I think Judge Bybee should serve his tenure as a federal court judge, a life appointment, for as long as he can until he's prosecuted with crimes. It will be rather simple to remove him from the bench and to bar him from the practice of law once we have found him to be guilty of crimes. I think, frankly, it is a distraction to focus right now on any effort to impeach him as a judge. As Americans, we ought to investigate, we ought to prosecute, we ought to give people due process. If he is found guilty for committing crimes, then you can ask him to step off the bench once he's behind bars. I'd rather focus on the broader efforts to bring Judge Bybee, Mr. Addington, Mr. Cheney, Mr. Yu, Condoleezza Rice. Those are investigations that have to happen. And I worry that if we only focus on impeaching just one federal judge, we'll be missing the broader issue that really is before us. That will be determined with time. I'm not at all a patient man, but I'm glad to let time play out with the tenure of Judge Bybee on the Ninth Circuit.
Of course, the list of people that you just mentioned raises the question of, is there any line to be drawn should prosecutions go forward?
No.
Well, let me then be, let me just push you a little bit.
You mean to mean, should the line be drawn around the president? No. We've impeached one president who broke the law, knowingly and intelligently broke the law. If after an investigation shows that our former president, George Bush, broke the law, then he too must be held for account. His election as president did not make him immune from prosecutions of crimes. What we ask in a way that is now rooted in facts and not allegations, now looking at the documents that are on the stationery of the Justice Department itself, is who knew what when? Did they indeed know what they were authorizing was in fact illegal? If they did, then we hold them accountable. If they didn't, we need to learn those lessons. But we clearly don't have the facts sufficient to decide who should be absolved or who should be held accountable. That will come after a greater deliberation on the facts and a greater analysis on these cases. We need to take our time and analyze it well.
Do you have any, in addition to going up the chain, if you will, do you have any opinion on how far down the chain one might go in terms of prosecutions? The interrogators, the CIA agents who may have set it up and engaged in the rendition?
I think no one should.
Is there any line drawn
all the way down?
Yes.
The Nuremberg defense, where people who were relying upon good advice, supposedly good advice, about how to interrogate individuals, if they stuck to the guidelines that were given by the government, if in fact, when you read the memos, they tell you that when you slap someone, you're not to have your fingers collapsed, you should have them spread apart, you can't have a fist, you shouldn't have a ring. They tell you that if you're going to submerge someone in 41-degree temperature water, you can't do it for more than 21 minutes. They tell you that if you're going to bash someone's head against a wall, it should be a flexible wall and not a brick wall. They inform you that if you're going to throw someone violently against a wall, you have to have a neck cradle on them so that their neck doesn't whiplash back. If they took that guidance and followed it exactly as they were told, then they ought not to be prosecuted. My hunch is there were a sufficient number of individuals who had closed fists with rings on their hands, who held men in water for more than 20 minutes in 41-degree temperature, who in fact did not put the neck brace as they were walling detainees. If in fact they broke the very explicit guidelines on how to interrogate these individuals, and it is in a footnote of one of these memos, then they ought to also be held accountable. I think no one is above the law, and I think it would be a grave injustice to say these are too small level criminals not to prosecute, and this is too much of an untouchable criminal to pursue. The law applies to anyone and everyone equally, and that we have the ability and the resources if we have the political will to muster to prosecute those crimes.